The day is June 23, 2006. The Canadian Press, a news organization based in Toronto, Ontario, has revealed details of an agreement between the city of Montreal, Quebec, and Norman Legault, the promoter of the Sir Gilles Villeneuve road course. The track would be given 2 racing weekends with the possibility of attracting additional types of motorsports in addition to the annual Formula 1 Canadian Grand Prix. Champ Car, now known as Indycar, also held a yearly race to the circuit, which began in 2002. However, Legault makes a certain decision. He removes the Champ Car race off the schedule and instead gains dates from the Rolex Sports Car Series, now known as IMSA, and the NASCAR Busch Series. The Canadian Tire Series would follow suit, and all 3 series made their beginnings at the circuit in 2007. For the next 6 years, IMSA and NASCAR hosted yearly races at the track, bringing in lots of attention and fandom towards certain forms of motorsports outside of Formula 1. However, in late 2012, after what had been an incredibly eventful nationwide series race in August, the motorsports management group known as Octane Management announced that NASCAR would lose their date entirely, effective immediately in 2013, with no hope or promise whatsoever of returning. What had happened was the group looked to get a Sprint Cup Series day at the track to perhaps do a doubleheader weekend in the hopes of attracting more fans and revenue, considering how crazy each race had been up to that point and how popular it was with the local fan base. Hell, even the Canadian Tire Series was putting on a show, but unfortunately NASCAR said it would be quote-unquote impossible to add or move a date. Thus, the circuit never saw NASCAR action ever again from a national series, along with the Canadian Tire Series. Funny enough, Canada would be able to keep some form of NASCAR action as the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Bowmanville, Ontario, reached a deal with the Camping World Truck Series for a date, spanning 7 years before the COVID pandemic came in and torched everything. Now, this gets me to a point where I'm looking at history a little confused. Sure, there was most certainly a revenue difference between NASCAR and Formula 1 for their respective races at the track. But here's the thing though, we're not concerned about Formula 1 here, this is about NASCAR. Why didn't they give the Cup Series at least one shot to try and appease fans? There was clear proof of the entertainment factor from the nationwide series, with a mixture of the local Canadian fan base, which was about 60,000 plus fans of 100,000 capacity on average, and even most of the drivers and teams that came by each year. As an extremely popular track in Formula 1 nowadays, albeit the COVID cancellations in recent years, it seems a little absurd that NASCAR didn't at least sniff an opportunity. Just look at most sports capacity number, it's only just over 8,000. That is a massive difference compared to Sir Gilles Villeneuve. Now, all of this is going to be put into an explanation persuasion today, as we'll do a short discussion on the circuit itself, as in how it's raced on, and talk about each individual race that occurred throughout the late era of the Busch Series and the new beginnings of its rename, the Nationwide Series, along with attempting a bit of persuasion on why NASCAR should consider this track for when they can return north of the border. First of all, the Canadian Tire Series was already discussed in a prior video, so I highly encourage you to go check that out and perhaps use that one as a smaller but definitely extra excuse for NASCAR making a return. Now, to get things straight, what is this circuit in short words? Well, it's just under 4.4 miles long with 20 turns situated on a pair of islands called Parc Jean Drapeau, when combined at least, along the St. Lawrence River, which spans throughout Quebec and Ontario. It comprises of 2 islands, with one of them hosting Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It's quite the geography if you take a good look, as it fits almost naturally to the overall island. Anyways, where the start-finish line is, it's in the middle of a long straightaway along a pit road that is walled off with a fence that stretches until the flag stand at the line. Fun fact, the pit road actually had to be extended as it wasn't big enough for a 43-car field at the time NASCAR first raced at the track. Past the line is a slight curve to the right, which is where the infamous turns 1 and 2 are. This is where the racing can get absolutely wild, especially off a restart, with lots of shifting down and inconsistent acceleration and braking. Out of the second turn seems to be a curved straightaway until it comes to a very abrupt end with a very short and sudden chicane through turns 3 and 4, where the usage of curves and proper timing is very important. Another curved straightaway comes along with high-speed flat-out runs before the tricky turn 6 arrives, which is known for its tough braking and rough exit. After some more flat-out racing at turn 7, drivers can expect to drive under a bridge and arrive into the turns 8 and 9 chicane, which tends to have very high speed through it along the curves. Then comes turn 10, mainly known as the hairpin, where how well you turn in plus how your exit is will determine your run down the Casino Straight, a giant straightaway known for overtaking opportunities. At the very end is the final chicane with the famous Wall of Champions, or Quebec Wall, that can be seen as drivers try to get through the narrow curves. I will confirm that if you're in a side-by-side battle coming to that corner, then expect all hell to just break loose. And here are some examples.
Is he going to punt him? Is he going to punt him? He will. Oh, he gets right underneath. Pulls it to the wall. Ranger's going to go right. Clear.
Pappas over the curves. Here comes Boris Said. Drag racing to the finish line.
Well, Carl Edwards is doing everything he can right here. And Marcus, big time curve. Here comes Edwards.
You'll be seeing explanations for some of those finishes later on. Anyways, that was a quick rundown of the circuit. Overall, it's quite clear why many fans in Formula 1 and past fans from the NASCAR era like the track. The crazy number of chicanes, whether it's tricky to get through or has incredibly high speed, the long straightaways, the hairpin, the final turn, and the natural environment altogether. Now, it's time to discuss NASCAR's experience at the track with its secondary national series, the Nationwide Series, now known as the Xfinity Series. This point of the video will be the proof for why NASCAR should consider a return to the track in the future. NASCAR's first sanctioned race at the track was on August 4th, 2007, which would be the only year where the series had the Busch name to it before the rebrand in 2008. The name of the race would be the Napa Auto Parts 200, a 74-lapper spread over 200 miles. I will confirm that around this time the series was very low on full-time drivers that didn't race in the Cup Series, with only drivers such as Jason Leffler, David Reagan, Stephen Light, Marcus Ambrose, and a few others being series regulars. Along with this, drivers that were full-time in Cup were allowed to race full-time in lower divisions, which thankfully doesn't happen nowadays. Anyways, back on task. Ironic enough, a Canadian native by the name of Patrick Carpentier won the pole. Leading just the first 6 laps, other road course ringers began to lead the race, including Boris Said and Ron Fellows. As I mentioned before, the number of rough braking points across the track, many people anticipate lots of crashing, which surprisingly didn't happen. At first. 31 laps went on without a single caution, with 2 short ones coming out within the next 10 laps due to oil from cars blowing their engines up. Marcus Ambrose, a rookie in the series who had joined NASCAR after lots of success in Australian V8 supercars, began to dominate the race, leading 26 laps. At the end of that run is where we get to the most vital point of this race, and one of the more controversial endings of a NASCAR race ever. It's been talked about so many times, so just grab some popcorn for this one because it's going to be pretty long. So, a caution on lap 67 for more oil set up a single file restart with Ambrose in the lead. Back towards 4th, coming into the first turn, Cup Series driver Kevin Harvick makes a move up high on Scott Pruitt, hoping to get a run into 3rd through turn 2. However, coming into the first turn, Pruitt shuts the door on Harvick with a bit of a weird block, and a bit of a weird entry as well, causing Harvick to, for whatever reason, just slam into the right rear of Pruitt heading into turn 2, dumping him and collecting other cars such as Ron Fellows, Jeff Burton, and others. A yellow flag is displayed to the pileup, with Ambrose and Robbie Gordon far and away gone into the distance. Thing is, however, going through turn 3, the cameras show that Gordon has passed Ambrose seemingly before the caution. However, after the pass has been made and the 2 cars are coming through turn 4, Ambrose then dumps Gordon. To clarify a few rules here, caution obviously means the field is frozen and whoever is in front keeps the lead, but also you must maintain minimum race speed at that exact moment. Here's the problem though, Gordon was dumped when he had taken the lead at the moment of caution. Shouldn't that be an exception, you may think? Nope, NASCAR says otherwise. They say that Gordon failed to maintain race speed and he must be sent to the back or else he'd be black flag. At this point, it seems obvious that the NASCAR officials had the same IQ as the FIA, 2021 Abu Dhabi finale. They tell Gordon to go to 12th, but he flat out refuses and keeps his car in 2nd, which is fairly reasonable. So what happens next? NASCAR throws the green flag, with a car they've clearly penalized, although technically they haven't yet, in 2nd place. Yeah, that sounds just as stupid as it should. Because of this, it gives Gordon a clear opening to get back at Ambrose, and that's exactly what happens next. He gains a run through turn 1, dives into the 2nd turn, and dumps Ambrose, causing Ambrose to end up finishing just 7th, and Gordon zoomed away into the distance with the lead. NASCAR eventually took Gordon off the score sheet, he would eventually finish 18th, and Kevin Harvick would end up winning the race. Funny enough, Gordon still drove to the front stretch and did burnouts with Harvick, likely confusing the hell out of many fans in the stands. Along with being removed from scoring, Robbie was also suspended from the Cup race the next day, along with being fined and put on probation. To this day, I personally consider Robbie Gordon to be the true winner of this race because that entire finish was basically a NASCAR version of the FIA making dumb decisions. Just the overall fact that they let it go on the way it did is absurd. It makes me feel even worse considering how much Gordon was pretty much tortured by NASCAR through his entire career, in a way, and I know many other people who can advocate for this. One hilarious thing I found online though, if you look on the Wikipedia page of the Napa Auto Parts 200, you can see Robbie's name as the winner of the race along with the incredible revision in the View History section. Sorry, it was just too funny, I just had to put it in there. We're only one race into this discussion, yet the chaos has already exploded. Held on August 2nd in the first year of the series having the nationwide name, it took history as the first ever race in NASCAR history to be run under rainy conditions, with cars having specialized ring tires and windshield wipers, along with the humorous moment of Carl Edwards literally pulling out a mop and attempting to wash his windshield through his window net. To clarify, there was a purpose of the mop, and it was to help remove any potential fog. Scott Pruitt won the pole for the race and led just 13 laps. During this time, the rain hit the track on lap 6, causing drivers to come in and collect rain racing requirements. Marcus Ambrose led the next 27 laps before having the lead swapped out for Gilles Villeneuve on lap 41, and then Ron Fellows taking a full lead on 42. With 2 cautions for single car problems, the rain got a little too heavy, causing the yellow flag to be displayed on lap 46, and the race to be cancelled early. Fellows scored his 4th and final career victory in the series with Patrick Carpentier, Ambrose, Ron Hornaday Jr., and Boris Said to complete the top 5. I will also point out that 4 notable Pinty Series drivers took part in the race, being DJ Kennington, Andrew Ranger, Scott Steckley, and Don Thompson Jr. Held on August 30th this time around, this race was probably the craziest overall in terms of incidents and just an overall lack of green flag runs. Marcus Ambrose won the pole, dominating most of the race, although there were lead changes from drivers such as Carl Edwards, Jacques Villeneuve, and even Andrew Ranger. The average green flag run was just 3.8 laps, as no matter what, the race couldn't get a long run, except for a mid-race 19-lapper, and a lot of good cars were taken out due to either brake failure or crashing out, with a few big crashes breaking out in between laps 23 and 30. Some notable DNFs included Jason Leffler, the 2008 race winner Ron Fellows, rookie Justin Allgaier, and Patrick Carpentier. The final 16 laps of the race saw Mother Nature once again open the skies, and she even brought on a multitude of late race cautions, leading to a green-white checkered finish. Although many cars wrecked in the middle of the field in turn 2, the race remained green and Marcus Ambrose appeared to be on his way to victory. However, Carl Edwards began to pick up a fight for the win, catching up corner by corner on the last lap. All Ambrose had was one more corner and he was likely set for victory. Until he messed it up, driving right over the second round of curbs and bouncing his car towards the wall, causing Edwards to dive into the lead on the inside, stealing the victory in a shocker of a finish. Perfect rebound for the track after an unfortunate ending the previous year. Personally, this is my favorite one of them all, and it has the best finish in my opinion too. Held on August 29th, this race featured 2 big wrecks, one very early and one very late. It looked to be another domination by Marcus Ambrose, who won the pole and led the first 20 laps of the race. Lap 13 saw a massive pileup at turn 7, collecting drivers such as Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Robbie Gordon, Tony Raines, and Joe Nemechek. Surprisingly, no one was DNF'd from it. Multiple drivers took their shots at the lead mid-race, including Gordon, Edwards, Villeneuve, Keselowski, and Max Pappas. Ambrose retook the lead on lap 36, however mechanical issues caused him to have to quit the race, dashing his chance of rebounding from his final corner disaster in 2009. As 2009 race winner Carl Edwards held on to the lead with less than 10 laps remaining, a caution was displayed for an incident involving Michael Annett, causing the field to rack back up for a 6-lap shootout. Coming out of turn 2, a bunch of tangling in between Villeneuve and Trevor Bayne caused Villeneuve's car to make contact with Jason Leffler, sending his car into the wall in front of the entire pack. Somehow, only 6 other cars were involved. A 3-lap shootout saw Robbie Gordon take the lead as Edwards also dealt with mechanical issues, but was short-lived due to oil from Leffler's damaged car. A green-white checkered attempt settled the finish, and honestly, I'm gonna let you watch the whole thing. There's no need to describe it, it's just a pure showing of the circuit's ways.
Last lap at Montreal. Even if the caution comes out, the race will be over, the field will be frozen. Pappas looking to close in. If they tangle, the 32 will try and pounce. Oh, inside for second, Villeneuve. Can he stay there? No, Pappas gets back by. Now Pappas has to try and chase Boris Said back down.
Down, Andy. Yeah, he did a good job getting down in there. I was wondering if he was going to be able to get in there without wheel hopping. That's the key right there. I believe he can hold him off through these next 2 corners.
Remember, it was the last corner of the last lap last year. One little mistake that cost Marcus Ambrose the win and allowed Carl Edwards to go by. Here's Pappas inside of Boris.
He got him.
Boris going to try the crossover. Clear. Pappas over the curbs. Here comes Boris Said, drag racing to the finish line, side by side. Who's going to get here first? It is, I think, Boris Said. I think he got him by a bumper.
2 straight years of excellent finishes. Just wow. To confirm, this was the year when Cup Series drivers were restricted to part-time, although that didn't stop them from running many races regardless. Held on August 20th, the front row featured an all-Canadian lineup of open-wheel ringers, Jacques Villeneuve and Alex Tagliani, with Villeneuve on pole. The incidents in this race weren't as big as the prior year, and the first half of the race was relatively smooth, with many lead battles from drivers such as Villeneuve, Leffler, Scott Speed, and Robbie Gordon. 2010 race winner Boris Said only lasted 51 laps before crashing out in a single-car incident. On a restart with just 30 laps remaining, however, things took a major twist. As Villeneuve and Ambrose held the front row, just after the two had made some slight contact after the line, Villeneuve lost control of his car, driving off track and into the grass at the entrance to the first two turns, managing to save the car somewhat. What happens next? He drives right back onto the track, right into the path of Ambrose as he's entering the corner, sending both cars around in front of the field, somehow not collecting anyone else, except for a close call with Alex Tagliani. It seems as though Villeneuve's car began to run into issues after the incident as he only managed to finish 27th. The incident wouldn't stop Ambrose, however, as he crawled his way back up to the front, and by about 13 laps remaining, he had reached second place as a caution was flown for debris. At the same time, weather concerns began to stir with ominous-looking clouds in the sky nearby. It wouldn't disturb the race, however, as a restart was done with 10 laps remaining, with Tagliani and rookie Michael McDowell in the front row. The two remained side by side into turns 1 and 2, however, a loose moment coming out of the second turn caused Tagliani to force himself and McDowell up the track, causing Ambrose to find an open hole on the inside to take the lead from there on out. One more restart was needed after that, and Ambrose wouldn't be stopped, scoring the victory after many years of frustration. Tagliani, McDowell, Steve Wallace, and J.R. Fitzpatrick wrapped up the top 5. Well, here we are, the grand old finale before the ending of the partnership. Bit weird considering none of the drivers knew it was to come later in the year. Ironically, the most competitive one too, based on the number of regulars on the Nationwide Series grid and outside road course ringers. After starting in second the previous year, Alex Tagliani won the pole for this year's race, with Indycar Series driver Sam Hornish Jr. running his first full-time season in Nationwide alongside him. The first 19 laps remained caution-free as Tagliani, Hornish, and Villeneuve all took shots at the lead before several incidents caused things to slow down a bit. A serious what could have been story started on lap 23 as rookie female driver Danica Patrick stole the headlines by holding the lead off a restart, leading 20 laps. It literally looked as though Danica had a shot at winning the race as she kept the pace. But of course, her luck was ripped to shreds on the lap 38 restart. Although not caught initially, the broadcast was told us something that happened on the first lap of the restart. A replay in turn 5 was shown, and guess what had happened? A fan had thrown a shoe onto the track. Yup, a shoe. And what happens next? Danica comes right around the corner and runs over the shoe, causing her car to run into issues. A freaking shoe is the reason why Danica isn't a race winner in NASCAR. A bloody shoe. Anyways, the rest of the way saw Villeneuve and Hornish and NASCAR veteran Elliott Sadler fight for the win. The last 11 or so laps are the crazy points of the race, beginning with a turn 3 tangle between Hornish and Michael McDowell, and then a crash at turn 2 involving Danica, Hornish, and Mike Wallace. No yellow flag was displayed and Villeneuve seemed to be on his way to victory within the final 5 laps, until a caution was thrown for Wallace crashing again. A restart with 2 laps to go was done, for maybe 2 corners, as the middle of the pack began to pile up, including drivers like Tagliani and Brendan Gaughan. Another 2-lap restart was attempted, and at the entrance to turn 6, an aggressive entry by Stenhouse Jr. sent his car around, collecting 2 other cars including Kyle Busch. Man, was this race ever going to end? The answer is surprisingly yes, as another 2-lap shootout ensued, once again led by Villeneuve. Everything remained clean until turn 6, again, as a huge dive down low by Justin Allgaier sent his car past Sadler for second place. At the white flag, Villeneuve held a firm lead, but Allgaier was right there with a shockingly fast pace. The one time where it seemed as though Villeneuve would finally triumph in scoring a NASCAR victory after attempting 4 of the last 5 races at the circuit. It was getting super damn close. Was he really going to be denied? There was absolutely no way. Oh, but guess what? More tragedy occurred. Coming into turn 6, Villeneuve's car ran out of fuel, sending Allgaier to the lead and Hornish to second. Nothing else happened, and coming through the final turns, with a little tap to the wall champions, Allgaier hung on to score his 3rd career Nationwide Series victory, and his first on a road course. Villeneuve managed to finish 3rd despite the loss of fuel. Good lord. Just an overall crazy race that would eventually end up being the final NASCAR National Series race ever held at the circuit. Totally not crying right now. Now, after going over what it's like to race at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the history of NASCAR National Series racing at the track, and what happened leading to the fallout between the organization and the circuit, I think we validated the idea of bringing NASCAR back to the track. The entertainment factor is a huge reason considering the amount of freaking details that were just discussed about each individual race that the nationwide series hosted. Drivers dealing with heartbreaking corners, high-speed straightaways with many overtaking openings, and sometimes even the smallest curves to them, like turn 5, and having to figure out ways to avoid the chaos of the first 2 turns on a restart. There's just so much about the track and the way it's raced on. Just search up highlights on YouTube and you'll get all kinds of things. Speaking of it, take a look at the comments below the 2012 race replay. Whether or not some of the comments are old as hell now, you can clearly see many fans with an opinion of wanting the track to come back. Unfortunately, as of right now, this idea isn't looking so good. We're all in the middle of a pandemic, obviously. NASCAR was heavily restricted against going over the border for both the 2020 and 2021 seasons, with its annual Truck Series race at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and it ain't getting a date in 2022 either. Hell, even Formula 1 has been unable to do their annual Canadian Grand Prix for the past 2 years. Let's just say things begin to hopefully quiet down within the next 2 or 3 years. Which is why I have a few proposals to make based on what I think could seriously help out both NASCAR and the circuit as a whole. The first one is to simply return the Xfinity Series for one weekend, and honestly that doesn't even satisfy me enough, which is why I'm going to add in a Cup Series date. I don't think the Truck Series or ARCA Menard Series would hold up very well, especially financially, so I believe having the top 2 national series take a run will keep things stable in both the racing and the money. I have a bit of a feeling that even the top series would provide chaos anyways. Just look at what happened with Circuit of the Americas and the Indianapolis Road Course in the previous season. The second one is an add-on to the first one, except with one addition: have a close time frame with the Formula 1 weekend. Obviously a doubleheader would not make sense as there wouldn't be any room at all to swap between the 2 organizations. The F1 paddock is quite literally massive compared to what NASCAR has, and the popularity would kill any chance of combining the 2. Because of this, I'm going to ask this. Why not try 2 straight weekends where one is NASCAR and one is Formula 1? If that fails, let's fit the 2 into the same month somehow. Something tells me that being able to combine the 2 very close by in some realm would create a ton of publicity and revenue in the motorsports world, and give each fan base an opportunity to learn about one or the other, and enjoy both with a diversity mindset, kind of like what we mentioned in the Pinty's video. The only issue I would see with this are the costs to run both at a close difference, or just in general to alter in a single year, and the popularity differences. Both are very reasonable to occur, but honestly, I believe in the possibilities regardless of what obstacles may arrive in this scenario. Now, the third one follows up with the first 2 proposals, but it gets even wilder. Let's return Indycar to the track, and maybe even the Pinty Series. Can you just imagine a year where we see action from the NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Pinty Series, the IndyCar Series, and Formula 1? Now, I'm very aware that IndyCar, outside of the pandemic, does go to Toronto, but shut your mouth. At this point, you may be thinking I've sniffed enough just to slam on my keyboard the most random crap, but listen, I sometimes love to create chaos, and this exact situation is one where I believe in it. COVID is already causing us enough of it anyway, so don't blame me. All I ask is that you take these proposals into consideration, and if NASCAR ever heard this, yeah, can you guys just return already? No matter if we ever end up returning or not, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve will forever remain a special place in Canadian NASCAR fans' hearts, as one of the more classic circuits in history. It may have only run for 6 years and had many local fans have their souls be ripped out from inside them, because the track was basically their only opportunity of watching a NASCAR race in person. But the memories will always remain there, and all the nostalgia can be found on YouTube with many different highlights from many different people, including NASCAR themselves, ironically enough being the last race. If any road course in history provided as much entertainment and mayhem as it did, it was Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, or perhaps just simply Montreal. The company has shown clear intent of wanting to get back onto road courses in recent years. Charlotte Roval, Indy Roval, Portland, Circuit of the Americas, you name it. Why not attempt a return to Montreal at some point? Maybe if the pandemic could stop, sure. Who knows at this point? But anyways, that's officially going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I've set up a playlist of every race's highlights from 2007 till 2012, and perhaps some notable moments from these races, so if you want to take a look, the link is in the description. Don't forget to hit the like button, click the subscribe button along with the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything else, and also share this with your buddies to get the word out. My name's Reegser, or Reeks for short, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one.